Well, there she is, the one, the only Miss Stefanie Causey. Stefanie Causey, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you having me.
You look very nice today, Stefanie. You're a little bit more dressed up than I am. I'm wearing a t-shirt. Look at you. So you're doing well, and considering these times, you're doing all right?
Well, it's definitely a topsy-turvy world. Doing the best we can, and luckily I have an incredible partner I'm spending my time with here in my home, and a couple of dogs. Hopefully they don't start barking in the background while we do
Oh,
this.
if they do, it's okay. This is a live show. I have a dog too, so it happens. So let me introduce my audience to Stefanie Causey. So I had the pleasure of meeting Stefanie Causey at one of my events at the Secret Sauce Society. And then we didn't really have a chance to talk much, but then we decided we were going to have lunch, and it was instant connection. This, folks, is a show, as you all know. I'm going to be rebranding the show called The Gas Guzzlers with Andrew Kolikoff, me. And it's GAS is an acronym I use for give a shit. But GAS is this interesting thing that nobody can teach you. You can't take a course in it. You can't get certified in it. You can't get trained in it. You can't read a book on it. Yet there are people who have just a very high level of gas baked in them. And what I've noticed is that these people live their lives differently. They live, and how it manifests itself in their personal life and in their work life is different than most ordinary people. So the purpose of the show is to invite people that I feel have a serious gas problem. And Stefanie, I'm sorry to say that you are one of those people with a serious gas problem. And let me give them a little bit of background on you. So Stefanie is a trailblazer. This is a strong-willed yet kind human being. This is somebody who is in a profession for her whole life that is a male-dominated industry in the technology leadership industry. I'm talking CTO, CIO. There are very few women in this area that are leaders. It's getting better. Thank goodness it's getting better, but there's not nearly enough. And this woman has been doing it for a long time. But what makes her special is how she does it. It's not just how that she delivers results. It's how she does it that I find so wonderful, and why I wanted her on my show. So, Stefanie, thanks for being on my show again. Let me start with a question.
Shoot.
If I was to ask you, I just said, it's not just that you get it. We all have the phrase GSD, right? Get shit done, right? I'm a GSD person. Okay.
Right.
Right. Well, there's many pathways to results. As I always say, Attila the Hun was enormously successful, and Mahatma Gandhi was enormously successful. The question is, which path do you want to walk towards success? So how would you describe, this gas quality that you have in you? How has it driven you towards results? And what would be that way? And this might be a long answer, and that's fine. I'll sit back and shut up because I haven't stopped already. But I want you to tell me what is different about you in driving results in a leadership technology field.
Well, yeah, that's going to be a long answer. I'm a bit of a storyteller, so I'm probably going to, it's going to be a bit of a journey. So when I first started in technology, like you said, I was kind of alone. And that was, it was exacerbated by the fact that I started my journey in the South. I was called Hun a lot. My first title was, I was the fix-it. But what I realized very early in my career is that I have this unique ability to understand a problem and see the the forest as well as the trees, and see a way to remove the roadblocks and smooth out the process. And even back then, and this was quite a while ago, I will not say how many years because I prefer to let people guess how old I am. But it was still pretty early in using technology to enable business process. So I got lucky that I was paired with someone who's also extremely talented when it came to understanding data. And I had a significant affinity for data myself. And we were trying to solve this problem where it's taking forever to get from contract to cash. And nowadays we would call it, the business value chain, right? And my first thing I had to fix was how long that was taking. And by the time we got done, we went from 6 to 8 weeks to 48 hours. And that was a huge light bulb moment for me to realize that I had this ability to get people to talk to me, to get people to tell me their problems, to tell me their pain points, to explain to me, and even in the most basic terms, because a lot of times I had no clue what they were talking about. But because I have this ability to actively listen and I authentically care about what it is that they're struggling with, they will open up to me and they will tell me what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And without that, there's no way that we could have really figured out what those underlying issues were. And by the time I left that company, it wasn't just that contract to cash issue that we solved. We effectively custom built what we would today call a CRM system. And we had a 360-degree customer 10 years before there was anything out there that actually solved that problem. So I've been doing this whole business value chain and understanding the business side of things for a very long time, but also being able to see it from the business and the tech perspective. Maybe this
I would
unique
add
ability.
one more thing, which
Yes,
you just said, and I want you to keep talking, is from the human perspective. You were
absolutely.
listening to their shit, whether it's
Yes,
personal, that they were bringing their personal shit into work, and you would hear them out, and you would comfort them, and you would make them
yes,
feel important. So it's not just the bottom line and
right.
technical. It was also a servant leadership approach.
Absolutely. Well, and I realized along the way, I did things a little bit backwards, to be perfectly honest. I was really, really smart, high IQ, had all these accolades coming out of college. And instead of taking that full ride to an Ivy League university that I was offered, I chose to get married at 18 years old and ended up choosing a local college, blew that scholarship. I got married, I had 2 kids and was effectively divorced by the time I was 22. And I had to work. So I had worked with my mom in an office. So I started working as a receptionist. Figured out I was smart. So they started getting me to do accounts payable, accounts receivable. I worked my way up eventually to like office management. I was doing payroll. I was doing all of these different back office activities. And I learned, I had my fingers in it. I was, I became the person everybody came to for just about everything because I could figure it out. But again, that gave me that perspective. I was the individual contributor.
You didn't just have brains, Stephanie, which you do. You had gas.
I guess drive. I would
Gave
get
a
bored.
shit enough to want to make it right and to do it well and to do it more efficiently.
Right,
You can show up for your job or you can show up for your job with gas. And
right.
you showed up for your job with gas.
Well, and back then I just thought I kept getting bored, but I realized there was no challenge in it. So that's why I went back to school. I've been with my current husband since around that same time as I got divorced. Luckily met an incredible man. He saw something in me that I didn't see myself. But
Oh, I
he's been
see.
my partner. I know you see it. You see me now. You didn't see me then. He saw me then. He saw me then. But what that gave me is a perspective of being the individual contributor and making $9.25 an hour with 2 kids who needed diapers. And
Who walked away from a scholarship at an Ivy League school.
yeah, walked away from it. And made all the wrong decisions. So when people came to work with that personal, I could empathize because I'd been there. I'd done that. I got it. I understood. I always respected where they were coming from. And it's almost become a running joke that pretty much anybody can tell me what they're dealing with. And I can respond with, I have a story for that. Because I always have a story for that.
What that does is it makes you real and human to them. You're not just a taskmaster.
Right.
And you're not just a boss. You're also there to support them in every way you can. And that's so you are a natural servant leader, and you fell into technology, what, 25 years ago?
20. Don't overdate me. 20-ish. 21, maybe.
21 years ago, you fell into technology, and you've been there ever since. But you applied your natural disposition in problem solving and servant leadership in that profession.
So, and it's funny you say that because I never really intentionally chose to be a leader. It just always, I was the one in school and then in college, and even as I was working my way through college and after college, I always became the one that was chosen to lead the group project. I was the one chosen to lead the team. I was the one that became the office manager and managed the front office staff. I was always the one tagged for it because I've always been tagged as the natural leader. And it's not just because I'm the smartest or I mean, I've known a lot of really smart people in my life, but they weren't leaders.
I know
they weren't.
I know what it is. Shh, but our audience is listening. It's because you have a serious gas problem.
You keep saying, I don't know if I like being described that way. I really don't. Anyway, but as we were talking, we talked about servant leadership, and my leadership style actually developed as a result of some incredible bosses that I've emulated, and honestly, some really bad bosses that I chose to be the exact opposite of. And as I was growing in my career and I was, managing people and to a certain extent, wearing a bit of a mask because I was in the South and never really, I was a woman. And let's just say the glass ceiling smacked me quite a few times because I'm also competitive, bit of an overachiever. Used to being
tough when you need to be.
I'm sorry?
I said, you're no bull. You're tough when you need to be.
I have no problem speaking truth to power, and
I know that about you. I do.
I do try to be nice about it, and sometimes I'm not nice about it.
You're nice about it, but if they're not hearing you,
I'm direct.
You're
very direct,
and that's what I love about you and we're both very direct people. If things aren't nice, then we have to talk about it. Then it's not nice, but we'll talk about it. Where if things a lot of people avoid things to keep it nice, right?
Well, and I'll be honest, I did for many years, again, because I was in the South. Women are not expected to be confrontational, so I tried to find ways to work within that. Very frustrating, and I came to realize maybe I needed to move. And that's when I had the opportunity to move to Oregon. So my husband, very different. My husband, bless his heart, I love him dearly. We've been together 29 years, but he's a Memphis boy, born and raised. He was, wow, in his early 40s when I said, we're moving to Oregon. And I love him. He looked at me and said, baby, home is wherever you are. That's where we need to go. That's where we're going. And we packed up our 2 kids who were teenagers. That was fun. Mother, who lived with us, and my husband and I, we moved to Portland, Oregon. And that honestly was the best move I could have made, because that's where I began to blossom. Because the culture in Oregon is very accepting of people who are just who they are.
Well, it's more progressive
Very.
in politics. It's more progressive in their thinking.
In Portland,
Right.
on the I-5 corridor, let's be honest.
And it pushes down into business.
It does. And I had the opportunity again to meet some really smart people. And, you know, that is where I had the opportunity to get introduced to cloud technologies, and specifically Salesforce. And at the time, Salesforce was, nobody understood what Salesforce could be. You know, there was no envisioning the possible. People just, they were like, what is the Salesforce thing? What, just a big contact database? And I had the opportunity to see it. And again, it was one of those moments where my brain started going, wow, there's so many things we could do with this, right? And that's where I took my first foray from. I was working with clients, but more on a project basis, but not consulting. It's kind of hard to describe. I was more helping them with engagements, but not as a consultant, but as like an internal project manager. But I made the full switch to working as a consultant, and took on a team that was kind of figuring out the Salesforce space. And that's really where my career made that true switch to focusing on technology solely, how it enables business, but also how to take people who were young and hungry and really wanted to do some cool stuff and try new things and weren't afraid to take risks. And I tell you, that was really where my faith in myself began to grow.
Wow. I need to interject there, because that is what I learned in my career, in my life, was the more I began to trust myself, and I would, even as a coach, which I am, I would prepare and I'd have my notes. And when I finally closed the book, put it aside, and I trusted myself, I'd done enough just to be present and completely So let's speed things up, because we only have a couple minutes left. So that basically, over the course of your career, you have had leadership roles in information and technology as a woman, which is enormously impressive. Right now, like today, you are, which you just informed me, you are in transition.
I am.
So you hear this, audience. This is a seasoned technology pro that is a servant leadership type. She even told you her personal story, who's looking. I hope that somebody who watches this reaches out to you. How would they get in touch with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, and it's funny because if you look for Stefanie Causey and you spell my name right, I'm the only one out there with my name spelled the way it is.
So how do you spell that, dear?
It's Stefanie with an F, so Stefanie, and my last name is Causey, just like because, just drop the BE on the beginning and add a Y at the end. So Causey. But
Okay.
here's
So
the funny,
connect with you on LinkedIn, but here's the funny. Go ahead.
the funny part is I actually saw a recommendation, and if you look at my sum at the very bottom, it's common misspellings of my name. So you may find me even if you spell my name wrong. I added that recently because I'm so used to people spelling my name wrong.
Stephanie, you are a gem. I could talk to you. I mean, folks, this is somebody who, I mean, it's not fair to do justice to this woman to limit her to 20 minutes. And I did warn her that 20 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, it went so fast.
I did warn her.
You did.
So listen, folks, this is somebody with a serious gas problem. And somebody who, I mean, look, I mean, I have 2 graduate degrees. I'm a former university adjunct professor, former chief science officer. I did not get a scholarship to Ivy League. That's
Well,
me.
and I got a scholarship for my master's degree, I do have to say.
So, I mean, obviously she doesn't just have a gas problem. She is pretty smart and she cares about
And I love people, and people love me.
just said that she cares about people. So Stefanie, thank you so much for being on my show. You are a blessing in my life, and there's no question in my life, in my estimation, that anybody who hires you next, you will be a blessing in theirs. So,
Well, if they're looking to get from ideation to activation, they just need to look me up.
that sounds fancy. So contact her. You know how, folks. Stefanie, be well. Take care.
You too.